Hi, good morning. I've got a sick kid downstairs sleeping, so I'm not sure if I will manage to finish this video in one go, especially because it's a topic that's really big and complex. But I really wanted to talk about it because I had yesterday a session with a new mom, and she asked me something that triggered my whole idea about this topic. So, the topic is food and kids and food, and it's vast and very complex. And this video is definitely not full of solutions about how you can help your picky eater or how can you deal with your teenagers eating disorder and stuff like that. But it will be a long video, a long podcast about all the different issues, all the different challenges, and all the different aspects of children, the relationship with food. And I think I will come back to each of the topics I will refer to today with different videos, because really it's not something that you can tackle in one go. And I'm coming to this subject from my own personal experience. I'm not a nutritionist. I am a mother of 3 children who really loves research. And this is where I'm coming from. And of course, from all the talks I had with people I'm guiding and with my friends, and all the extra thinking and discussions, and again, research that came from all these different conversations with other mothers mainly, but also other parents. So let's get started. What was that question that this new mom asked me? She asked if it was okay that her exclusively breastfed baby put on almost double the weight that the midwife or the family doctor said that the baby should put on. This is a huge myth that people don't realize, and it is that you can actually, it is not true that you can overfeed a breastfed baby. Yes, if your baby is fed with formula, you do need to stick to them. To the right proportions, to the right number of bottles per day, but breastfed babies cannot be overfed until the age of 6 months at least, or until when they start solids, because many breastfed babies are ready to start solids much later and have proper meals. And this made me think, this should be common knowledge. This should be something that new mothers are actually told by all pediatricians. And the reason that is not being told is that pediatricians and doctors do not have nutrition courses. Maybe they have a couple of hours of nutrition courses throughout their schooling, but not more. And it is unacceptable. Then it is also understandable in the sense that they need to learn so many things, but then they should be referring parents to nutritionists, or even better, to online sources where they could look themselves and see what is best. I don't think it would be that hard to put once the effort to make an online folder with the basics of children and baby nutrition based on the latest papers, and update it every couple of years, and then the family doctors or the pediatricians could send to the parents the relevant folders so that the parents would have the knowledge, they could make informed choices for their children, instead of just saying the doctors sharing their opinion as a fact, which happens very often, unfortunately. So there are many misconceptions. One issue about children and food is that the misconceptions start very early on. Again, remember, if you're exclusively breastfeeding, you cannot overfeed your baby. I have a friend, hi Brooke, who I was convinced she was lying. Not really, but her baby has so chunky thighs that we call them thunder thighs. It was amazing. I was sure that baby was getting something extra, but no, that's what he needed. And the boy is now all grown, and he is like a linguine, super tall and thin. It's half Dutch. It was just in his genetics, and he just packed a lot of good healthy fat from his mama's milk the first month. And I've also seen tiny newborns breastfed, again exclusively, who were tiny, and these are all variations of normal if there is no other health condition. Formula feeding, that's another story. Mixed feeding, again, that's another story. I would say ask a lactation consultant, ask a midwife, ask a nutritionist if you're mixed feeding your baby, because then I cannot tell you how many calories they should get and how it works with breastfeeding and formula together, or only formula. The second thing that also plays a lot throughout the children's toddler years, like the first year, second year, third year, is that we tend to force feed our children. I've seen this image so many times, like a mom trying to force a spoon into their baby's mouth and saying, just one more, just try, just one more bite, just try. And trying is good, actually, asking children to try food, because it takes them up to 7 times to get used to a new taste. So you should keep offering foods that they have refused before. But offering is very different than force feeding a child. Now, I don't remember where I first came across that information, but I looked it up again and again, so that's why I don't remember that first source. But here's an info that might make you feel a bit weird. But our mouth is actually an erogenous zone. Linguistic note here, I'm Greek, we say erotogenis zoni, so it would be erotogenous zone. So I feel there's always a syllable missing, but apparently you guys say erogenous zone. So our mouth is an erogenous zone. By force feeding your child, you're actually teaching them that it's okay to shove things into their mouth, or for others to shove things into their mouth, and that is normal and that is acceptable in society. No, it is not acceptable. Like the same way that our private parts are private, our vagina, our vulva, our penis, our chest area, our breasts, the same goes for our mouth. It is not a good idea to actually force feed your children. It passes on subconsciously the message that it is okay for people to actually not respect this boundary. When you have someone like pressing their lips shut, you respect that. You don't push anything through there, right? I found it extremely insightful when I first read about it. So I really wanted to share it, not to guilt trip anyone. It is something that the whole generation of our parents did, and many of our generation also does, because we didn't know any better, but now you do. So you can always stop that practice. And I personally, coincidentally, didn't have that issue, and the reason is that we chose to do baby-led weaning, and this means letting children feed themselves. That is not for everyone, especially if you're a working mother that has to rush to the office. It's messy, it's really messy, but it has many, many benefits. I will come back to baby-led weaning in another video, but to really summarize it, put it really shortly, if you let your child feed themselves, they can better control their appetite, they can feel the food with all their senses, the texture, it becomes a really much more mindful experience. They are less likely to overeat, while when we are feeding them, they're more likely to overeat once they start solids. And they develop their dexterity, their fine motor skills, and you will realize that you have a child that is 2 years old and they can eat on their own, 2.5 years old. All 3 of my kids, I'm not sure if they are the rule or the exception, because in general they do have good fine motor skills, but by 2 years old they could eat a warm soup on their own without spilling it over them. My 6-year-old still will eat like a pig sometimes when she wants to go off playing, but that's by choice. She can eat neatly. She doesn't want to sometimes, just to, Anyway, and then let's move on to dietary choices. Ooh, that's a big one, because here's the thing. I've researched the vegan diet a lot. It started with my diploma project. It was in architecture. It was about sustainability. And it was very, very clear when I looked into numbers that a vegan diet is the most sustainable for the environment. It's the best for our ecosystems, for our health as well, period. There is scientific data to prove it left and right. If you're into keto diet, if you believe we should eat like cavemen, fine for you. It is not supported by data though. You can support it by cherry picking data. I'm fully aware I will make people angry by saying that. I don't particularly mind making people angry when my ideas are backed by data. And if those data change in the future, I will be the first to say, ooh, yeah, the data has changed. Here's the new insights that we have. So I was so into this whole vegan lifestyle. I was so into how beneficial it is for us, for the planet, for animals. that I went straight ahead. I went vegan, and I know that vegans will say you were never vegan because now you're not vegan, you eat plant-based, but you also have cheating times. Yes, I respect what you're saying. Fine, let's not fight about that. But I was so into it that I also researched vegan pregnancy, and I was absolutely convinced that it's good, healthy, and fine. However, during my first trimester, the only thing I craved and was not stinking to me was grilled cheese toast. And back then, vegan cheeses available in the Netherlands were as tasty as the sole of a shoe. Thankfully, we've come a long way since then. You can find now vegan artisanal cheeses in every delicatessen shop, and every supermarket carries really nice cheeses that don't taste like only coconut or like dust and glue. So I'm really glad this has changed. But back then, I couldn't stomach anything else. So for the first trimester, I ate grilled cheese toast. And so did my husband, because I was really not able to cook because everything stank. We could see the effects of cheese. Like Nikos put on more weight than me, I think, back then. So I'm not saying it was a healthy choice. I'm just saying that at that moment in time, I couldn't deal. I couldn't deal with following what was morally acceptable and what was for me my moral compass. I couldn't follow it because it really compromised my daily life, actually. And why am I talking about my pregnancy? Because there has been a lot of research that vegan pregnancies are actually safe, and raising vegan children is absolutely and totally safe as long as they get their B12 and their D vitamins, which are actually now recommended for all children because we don't get enough time outside in the sun because of our modern lifestyle. However, what you hear, the criticism that you hear very often within when discussions start about raising vegan children is, why would you force your diet on your child? That's an interesting one. But you see, we force many things on our children for their safety. So in that way you could say, well, if your child wants to smoke or drink alcohol, why do you force your refusal to consume these things onto your child? Well, because they're bad for them. And so is the consumption of cold cuts, for sure, dairy products, eggs that have all sorts of nasty chemicals in them, fish that is loaded with heavy metals. I know that these are not things that make you cheerful, right? But they are facts. So if I firmly believe in those things, why do I actually let my children have a cake when we go to birthdays? Why would I let them taste what their grandmother cooks for other people when we go to Greece? Why do I let them eat their grandmother's meatballs? Or if we go out in a tavern to eat with friends and they want to taste meat, why do I let them? Why do I myself sometimes eat meat when we go to Greece, or fish or octopus? Here is the thing. I think we should feed our children what we feel is safest for them. I think data supports a vegan diet. You might think otherwise. I'm not going to try and convince you about that. But I also think that while health is a very, very important aspect of our children's lives, there are other things that come into play when it comes to diet. And these other things are culture, tradition, enjoying food. Do I believe that in order to be loyal to tradition, you actually need to kill other creatures? Because in Greece, for example, we have the custom of the lamb being baked over a spit. You have the whole animal baked over a spit. No, I think you can change the tradition. I think you can celebrate Easter without killing an animal and roasting it whole, because times have changed. However, for me, food is linked to my culture and to my tradition, and I will try and veganize and turn into plant-based recipes as many things as I can. It is much easier now with the internet, and I have found really nice recipes for many Christmas treats or Easter treats that many Greek vegans on Instagram, for example, or Facebook or YouTube have made recipes for. And they were very successful, so I can do that. I can veganize traditions, and I do that whenever I can. However, if we are in a dinner table, I'm not going to start lecturing my parents or grandparents or other friends of friends on what they are eating. Because I think that equally important to maybe equally important to health, or anyway very very important, it is also to be able to enjoy warmth and moments of just a warm family dinner without having the conflict. And I don't think it is actually the right time to talk about your dietary choices or preferences, or to judge anyone else's lifestyle. And it is a matter of tolerance, not acceptance, in the sense that I do not accept that other people's lifestyle of choosing deliberately to eat meat every day is okay. I do not accept it, but I will tolerate it during family gatherings, during gatherings with friends, because I think it's very important for my children to experience the love they can get from these people and the warmth, and not spoil that moment. And then I can talk to them later on about, if they have questions about why these people choose to eat different things and why we don't. And I also talk to them about why sometimes I will order octopus when we are in Greece, even though they know that I love octopuses and I believe they are very, very smart creatures. But sometimes my need for comfort and my nostalgia get the best out of me, and I just really, really want to eat that octopus, fully knowing that their life was taken for me to enjoy a bite. I know that's very triggering for many vegans, but I'm trying to be as transparent as I can here. I'm not trying to be controversial, by the way. I really wish the moment comes that I don't feel that urge anymore. I'm not there yet. Just a small clarification, because I know that many people who are actually watching my videos or reading my writings are vegan. And so that was about forcing our dietary choices to kids. That's where I began from. That I think parents have the right to choose what their children eat within their home. They have to do it while their children are small, because they are responsible for their children's safety and health. And here comes the discussion about junk food. Should you let your children choose if they eat junk food or not, so they learn to self-regulate? That's a tricky one, because I really think it depends on age and on your child's personality as well. Here is the thing. Junk food is engineered to be addictive, right? It's full of sugar, fat, salt. It is made to trick your brain into thinking that you really, really need it. It's good for you. It's fast calories. It will help you survive in the wild. We are not in the wild. So it is that mechanism coming from our ancient brains that companies use to just feed us junk. It is an unfair game for our kids, because kids have not developed impulse control yet. And I feel that until they're a bit older and they have developed a bit of impulse control, or a bit more their logical thinking, it is not fair to them to put that responsibility on them to choose their food wisely. What we do is we just don't have junk laying around at home. Our oldest is 9.5 years old. Our youngest is almost 3, will be 3 in January. So for us, the easiest thing is not to have junk at home. And this means our kids do not eat junk on a daily basis. And that allows for some space for them to eat junk when we go out. Because I think it's also unfair, if we go out and I have a cup of coffee and a cake, my child should also be able to enjoy that social convention of, we are going out, we're having a good time, and we can also eat something that is different than what we eat every day. Wouldn't it be wonderful if our children were very happy to have a fruit salad when we go? Yes, it would be wonderful. And if you have achieved that despite the whole social pressure and all the images that our children see around with advertisements and stuff, really kudos to you. And I hope you can keep this up. I'm not saying it with any hint of irony. I see, however, how hard it is, because we are a family that doesn't have a TV, which means that our kids do not see advertisements. But even the supermarket magazine that is full of products and ads, it has all the ice creams there. It has all the waffles, all the cakes, all that stuff, And sometimes we will just bluntly say, no, you had enough sweets this week because, we went to a couple of parties or there was a celebration, and you just can't have more. Our oldest understands because her logical thinking is just more developed. Our middle one finds it not fair because she just wants it so much. She has less of that impulse control as well. But we do have very clear limits to what is acceptable and what is not, and she knows we are the authority figures, and we do also explain that it has to do with your health and it has to do with you having the opportunity to eat something else sugary next week, maybe if there is another celebration or a birthday or next month. So we do take the time to explain. We never say because I said so. Whenever I watch seminars about healthy eating or healthy lifestyle, the oldest two are always allowed to watch along with me, so they know I don't make the rules up. It is really science-based and backed by data, the decisions that we make about our eating. And I'm also very transparent when I succumb into behaviors like emotional eating, which is not one of my traits normally, but if I'm tired I might end up eating a piece of chocolate, even if it's dark chocolate, and then I might feel bad about it, bad in the sense of like having a sugar crash, not bad, guilty. And luckily we don't have guilt surrounding our food consumption here, and it was a bit of trial and error because for me, when I realized that in order to sustain a plant-based diet 90% of the year, I had to allow myself this 10% of the year of cheating moments. The first times there was guilt attached to it and linked to it, but I really didn't want to pass that on to my children. So yeah, that's something that we can elaborate on in another video. But this is about that was about junk food. And then I want to talk a bit about, like what I mentioned, emotional eating, eating disorders, these kind of things. This is also a big one when it comes to kids too and food. I don't know if eating disorders were such a big thing also, 100 years ago. I think then it was more a matter of survival for most people, especially, farmers, and they had a bad year, now maybe 200 years ago or even further back. And it was just a matter of, do I have food, then I eat it, and we're good, So I think that it is, it has to do with a contemporary way of eating, of living, and it does come with all this superfluous offer of all sorts of different foods, and then all this exposure to social media and models and lifestyle icons and influencers, and I find it very, very heavy for young kids to be exposed to all of that. And my 3 kids happen to be girls. I think the pressure on girls and women is significantly bigger. I might be wrong. Moms of boys, feel free to correct me. I think for gay teenagers, again, there is a lot of heavy image and you having to look cool, thin and sexy in order to be okay to be gay. I think there is that pressure as well in that scene, in a way. So I'm a bit terrified for when my kids reach that age that they will be exposed to these kind of things. For now, they are kept in a bit of a bubble because they're not using social media yet, and we are not using social media around them either. But food is definitely linked to body image, and body image is definitely linked to all sorts of mental health challenges and disorders if things don't go well around food. So I would say try and talk positively about food around your kids. That is something I need to master because I do use a lot of times, I will use negative words about food, like this is junk, or that's garbage, don't eat it. It is wrong. Absolutely. You can say that instead, if you're like me and you're programmed to say these things, it is much better to actually say that's a food that we don't eat often, or that's not a nutrient dense food, or that's not a food that is offering you so much, so we don't eat it. Too much of it, it will take up too much space in our belly. There are alternative expressions to use because really you don't want your child to be scared or to feel guilty when they consume any type of food, really. Hopefully by discussing with them about nutrition, about the benefits of eating their their fruits and their greens and their salads and their pulses, then they will have a solid basis to know what is better for them, and know what is something that it's okay to consume once in a while because it has this special texture and taste that's more intense, and it gives us an extra touch in in a social experience that we have, for example. So that is that is the other thing that I am now exploring and reading more about, and trying to figure out how to navigate. And for now that my kids are so small, body image has more to do with them observing my body and then observing how I talk about my body. And I try to be as positive as I can, though it is not that easy after seeing my body change after 3 pregnancies and 10 years of breastfeeding. And I say that fully aware that I'm someone that is very skinny, have been all my life, and still I feel the social pressure, and I feel the comparison with the bodies I see online, and still it gets to me, even though I have the cognitive ability to realize it is not important, it is not what matters. Your body takes you places, it's healthy, you feed it well, and that's all that matters. So I can imagine what it can do to teenage children, all that exposure to images that are not realistic. I'm very glad that we are taking steps towards reducing fat shaming and fat-phobia. That is another big misunderstanding when it comes to food and children. Parents do tend to panic when their kids have some extra kilos. Please know that your kid having extra kilos does not necessarily mean that your kid is unhealthy. Yes, extra kilos are often linked with health conditions in children. They are linked with diabetes. They are linked with obesity later on in life that can lead to other health problems like heart problems, circulation problems. But it is not necessary that it will be like that. Do get information about your child's health or about your own health by testing your blood levels, for example, and seeing how your overall condition is. I have friends who are overweight and all their health signs are really, really good, probably better than mine, that I am with a constant low stress level, like my cortisol levels being constantly high. So health composes of many, many different factors, and let us not determine weight. Let us not allow just the weight determine if a person is healthy or not. Please talk to your children, especially if they are overweight or if they have classmates who are overweight. Explain to them that a person can have extra fat, but you should not ever call a person name, especially not calling a person fat, because this is not their identity. I know that in the whole idea of reducing fat shaming, many people will reclaim fat as in like I am fat, and that is not bad. I don't take it as an insult. I still believe that we should not comment on another person's body, not positively, not negatively, unless we are going to talk about how healthy they look or how strong they look. But when it comes to weight, for me it's a no-go. I teach my children not to comment on that. And you might wonder, why do I have to teach that to them? The reason is because they do have contacts with people of different generations, right? My parents-in-law, other people in Greece, aunts, uncles, who will very often comment on how lovely it is that they're so thin, so slender. Or they will be talking with me on the beach and they will be like, oh, look, you're so thin. There are other mothers who've let themselves go and they are like whales. So there is that kind of talk. I find it normal. I think it should not be normalized. I think the next generation should break that cycle of negative talk about other people, negative self-talk about our bodies, and especially spreading hate and comparing ourselves to others, especially between women. I find it's really, really sad that instead of lifting each other up, we still tend to judge each other's bodies. And I would really like my children to be part of the generation that stops this. So that is important for me, and that is directly linked to food, to the relationship to food as well. So these are the things that I'm more processing at the moment about children and food. One thing that I would like to make a separate video podcast about, but I mentioned at the beginning also a bit about picky eating or picky eaters. I just want to tell you about it. If you're right now struggling with a picky eater and you listen to that whole podcast hoping to find tips about your picky eater, my tip would be leave the child in peace. 9 times out of 10, and especially if they do not have texture issues, if they do not have more sensory issues, it will resolve on its own. Children just need their time. I was an extremely picky eater as a child. My mother was constantly trying to help me eat more of this and that, especially ironically more meat, because they thought back then I had high iron, so I was forced to drink all those stupid supplements and eat liver and stuff like that, which I already didn't like, probably instinctively. And then I was 18 and I went to study and I lived alone. And the first year I survived on tortellini filled with cheese. And also, I hope my parents are not listening, alcohol. And then on year 2, I finally realized, I probably can't go on like that. And then I learned to cook. I remembered, it came back from my memory, the times that I also cooked with my mom, the things that she had showed me how to cook. And then I came up with more recipes. And then also cooking became a part to show my love for my friends. And it was a way to bring community together, to bring my friends together. It was a way to show someone I love them. Like Nikos is making fun of me because I was writing back then like poems or, short texts. And it's really funny how much food is mentioned. You would think you're reading a romantic story and then there are suddenly 10 dishes of different foods. Like for me, it is also cooking, and food is really a love language. And I think if you have a picky eater, the best thing you can do for them is let them cook next to you, and do not expect that they will eat what they cooked, but it does bring them closer to food. It gives them that subconscious knowledge that later on, when they will need it in their life, they will know where to find it. It will come back from their memory. So give picky eaters space, give them the chance to try a food many, many times, cook it in different ways. Don't try and disguise foods, like don't try and hide greens in pasta sauces and stuff like that. You can make, of course, a pasta sauce with many greens, but be transparent about what's inside. Otherwise, they won't know that the pasta sauce they ate and liked had mushroom in it, for example. Well, if they do, then they might be more open to actually try mushroom cooked in a different way, right? Okay, I think I kind of covered that a bit as well. I think I will stop here. I'm very curious to read your comments and reactions and to see what other thoughts you have when it comes to food and children, and what we could talk about more extensively. It is a topic very dear to my heart. I'm very lucky to have a friend who is a chemist and also a lifestyle coach with great knowledge about eating, and a lot of my knowledge is informed by her. I would be happy to share her contacts if you would like to talk with her as well, in a message. But yeah, do share with me about food and your children. What are your struggles and what are your thoughts about it? And I'm also really interested in exactly the cultural aspects and the traditions, and how you make nice moments even nicer using food. And if you're scared of connecting food with nice moments, or you prefer to completely detach it from nice moments because you're too worried that then it could lead to emotional eating, or not. Let me know. I would love to hear your thoughts, and have a nice day.